Hello, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So we might have a few more people keep dropping in as the 10-30 minutes roll on, but I'll get started because we'll have a bit of content to get through. So my name's Diana. I am working in the sector development team at QCOS and looking after the capacity building for the sector in energy and water space. And today I have helping me out a student from Griffith University who's doing a placement with us to learn about this space, Surat. He just gave a wave. So Surat's helping with the slides and doing things, so we're grateful to have that help today. And I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where I am and where you all may be calling in from across the state or maybe even further, and to acknowledge the ongoing traditional custodianship of this land. And so QCOS, we work in the energy and water space because as QCOS has been around for 60 years, championing and advocating for people who experience poverty and disadvantage and supporting people in the social services sector space to be upskilled to support vulnerable people in our community. So that's why we're presenting this webinar. So the plan for today is I'll keep chatting a little bit longer and give a bit of a context of the Charge Up program, which this project sits within. And then we've got Jane Gostalvez from the Energy Support Program from Uniting, who'll be talking to us. And we'll have a short time for questions directly after Jane's presentation, and then I'm going to talk about some of the QCOS resources that we've developed through Charge Up that link to that content area. And then we have Jane Zidell from EWOQ, the Energy and Water Ombudsfolk, as I like to call them, or Ombudsman, as it's formerly known in Queensland. I actually used to think until kind of bashfully, fairly recently, that the Ombudsman was just one person. I didn't realise it was a whole office of people. So I think Ombudsfolk is a little bit more representative. So yeah, Jane's gonna, Gail will talk to us from EWOQ. That's the Star Wars aligned acronym. And I think it sounds like Star Wars. And then we'll have some short question time after the EWOQ presentation, and I'll also talk about the other Charge Up QCOS resources that link to those topics. And then we'll open to a broader discussion if people have questions that have kind of pinged across the multiple speakers, and kind of a bit open to a bit of a panel discussion. And then at the end, I've got some broader QCOS events and things coming up and a post-event survey to share with everyone. So just a little bit about Charge Up. So this is a program funded by the Queensland Government and QCOS, along with Neighbourhood Centres Queensland. So we've got Sally Foreman on the call. Sally gives a wave. Thanks, Sally. So we are working with 20 neighbourhood centres across the state to upskill the neighbourhood centre workers to be energy champions, to help the local neighbourhoods to understand their energy bills, understand the energy system more broadly, which is complex stuff. So this webinar is part of extending that training program to the wider sector. So we've got kind of a focus group who we're supporting, and then we're doing some wider sector building as well. So without further ado, I'll chat more later. I'm going to hand over to Jane. I hope I pronounced your surname correctly before. Jane Gostalvez. Thanks, Jane.
Was on mute. Perfect, Diana. All right. Thanks for the opportunity as well to present her. So my name is Jane Gostalvez, and I'm from the team leader of Uniting Energy Support Program. And today I going to share with you information about how our long experience on this sector and how we actually support clients with the energy living course. But before, I just would like to mention our programs. So our program is actually been around for over 20 years, probably like now 24 years. So, and we actually national, we actually delivered in whole Queensland, Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia, and Tasmania. So we have got staff collocated in Sydney, Gold Coast, and Melbourne. And then when we actually talk about who is helping clients, it's a highly experienced community service workers. So it's a highly trained on the energy sector as well. How we actually do it? So our appointments are over the phone. It tends to be one-off support. Um, aim to be one-off support. Sometimes there is some sort of follow-ups depending on client circumstances. It's available all across Queensland, and there is no eligibility criteria as long as the client obviously experiences a hardship and is struggling to pay the bills. How I do it, and this is how I would like to share with you. It's tailored to clients' needs. So every house is different. Every household size is different. The dynamic is different as well. So it's the circumstances is different, so it's highly tailored to clients' needs. We use a straightening approach model based on what clients can do. Um, some people with disability, they will not have be in the same position someone which is just struggling with a job loss or things like that. So that's why we need to use and to tailor to consider what clients can do. It's educational. It's aimed to a long-term impact, not short-term. So I know sometimes on ER you have got some allowance, financial allowance to help the clients to pay the bill. So, but does not prevent it happening again. So our aim is actually to educate in a sense, like for clients to know what is going on with the abuse and to have some ways to manage it. And this is why we go into the empowering the clients. So it actually has got a huge impact on their self-esteem as well. So once you know what's going on, you are in a better position to manage it, how to use your appliances and to manage the energy at home, and how to discuss those energy details and language with the retailer. So yeah, so and then with empowering clients, we provide low cost, no cost energy savings tips based on behavior change. The support we provide and how we actually go through with the client and during the process. We start with the bills. So everything is there, like all the data that helps the clients to understand what it's important to help the client to understand what they're being charged for, and to have the breakdown of the price. Where is the usage? Where is the supplier charge? And why you're actually paying those prices, and how according to the seasons as well. So it's winter, summer. So we go through these details about and break down it in a simple language. So without using all those energy jargon. So it's like a plain English, simple ways to understand why you're being charged. Most clients actually just go to the final price and how much and when they have to pay. That's it. That's all they know about the bills. This is going to be actually extremely complex on clients on payment plan. So they actually paying per month, but they have no idea that how usage is actually fluctuates and impact the energy bills in the end. Right? So that's why it's very, very important to know how to read the bills, so then you can understand how's your payment plan goes, and if you pay per fortnight or if you pay per month or if you pay every 3 months. So how does it actually works with the price you have there and the usage and the breakdown in total cost for the client. And we check obviously on the bills and discuss with the client the discounts and concessions available, and to check if they are eligible. So if they're eligible, if they are not getting, or yes, so just the eligibility for what is available. I mentioned about the payment support. Some clients actually cannot afford. We helped with a payment plan. And then payment plan, you say, oh, okay, just ring the energy retailer and discuss payment plan. But clients, when they actually ring the energy retailer, they always feel like the retailer is here, the client is here. So it's very important to bring that level. Sometimes they have to accept some payment plan that is being put out for them because they have no choice. They have to accept it, even if they cannot afford to. So we're talking about affordable payment plan, a payment plan to set the clients for success, not to fail. Right, so that's one of the biggest issues about payment plans that retailers actually determine or discuss is setting very high. The clients cannot afford to pay. So it's discussed the best payment plan that clients actually can keep on going and able to pay. Energy efficiency plan with the clients, discussed how they use the energy at home with the appliances they have, how big is the house. We discuss even the thermal part of the house, the position in relation to the sun, and how actually we can discuss the best way to take the most of what they have. Often clients, they have no much control, especially if they're renting, so they can't do much about improving the house or putting new curtains or things like that. So we actually discussed what is possible for that client, and believe it, it's a lot of those energy saving tips. It's about behaviors, how they actually use the energy at home. And we use language translations as well, in case clients obviously do not speak English. When we discuss concessions, you probably know, and then just would let's say that if this information here on this slide is available on the Queensland website, cost of living support and concessions. So you can go there and get a little bit more details, just a little bit of highlights about what is available. So there is a home energy emergency assistance scheme. It's $270 for every 2 years. It's supposed to be in each year is a one-off emergency payment, and then the clients actually have to follow some eligibility criteria, like they have to have a concession card or being in an energy retailer hardship program, or I also heard that some situations clients with domestic violence as well, so they would be eligible for this grant. And again, it's one-off every 2 years. I think it's with this one tip I would do is often retailers tend to, while waiting for the grant being processed, and then by the way, it can be done online. Accounts can be put on hold. So need to be a little bit careful about putting accounts on hold. Every circumstance is different, so you don't want to putting account on hold while actually energy is still being used. So it's good to discuss those details with the client as well when they actually apply for a grant like that. So how this will work for the client. Right? So there is another concession that is often not being questioned and not being discussed during calls with clients and retailers, between clients and retailers, which is the medical cooling. So often retailers talk a lot about life support and life support concessions or being registered for life support, because obviously it's extremely important. So clients cannot live or has a machine at home that really needs to be connected to energy. So it's natural that a life support as a concession being talked and being part of the list, but medical cooling and heating, This concessions often slides a little bit because this concession exists for clients who need some stable temperature at home. So they're going through some medical condition or health issues that require some temperature stabilized in the house. So and there is a list of uh, health issues that can be considered for these concessions. So often needs to have a paper print form because client needs to take this paper to the doctor for the doctors to acknowledge and sign. So yeah, it's often this concession is being it's overseen like by the energy retailer because it needs a little bit more steps and averiguation and also the doctors to sign for clients actually to have this eligibility to have the concessions applied. Electricity and gas rebates as well. So per year it's like 372 for electricity and 89 for gas. And this year, so after July, sorry, the federal government actually released the energy bill relief funding extension, like for $300, 75 per quarter. All right, so yeah. And again, like I mentioned before, so this information is on the website with more details if you would like to go into more details about eligibility criteria for each of them. How we do it. So when we actually look at the client's bills, we pretty much tackle and discuss with the client of the areas of usage that will make the biggest impact on the bills. Look, talk about lighting and like when you compare energy, electricity and water. So water, you actually can see when the water is running, but it's very electricity. The only thing you think that you're wasting, and when you use the light is on and off in the room, and you would quickly say, "Oh, switch the lights off. Well, let's save energy." Obviously, everything that you do will save it. It's important that we actually switch, even the standby as well. Everything that you actually switch off will save electricity. You don't want to waste it. However, you're looking for the biggest impact on the client's bills. So it's very, very important to address, and especially because you don't have the whole day to talk with this, and clients also don't have the whole day to talk about this. So they need straight plan. So we really goes into the area that use the most energy, and we normally say like it's heating and cooling, hot water and other appliances like dryer. They tends to be the biggest one. So we go straight away to discuss with the clients the size of the house, how they keep the house warm in winter and cool in summer, and how they actually do the other activities like washing clothes and drying clothes. So that's those ones that we actually. The other appliances, they're all important, but you're dealing with someone experiencing hardship and someone that is already extremely stressed and financially stressed, and maybe other health issues or the issues in their lives. So you don't have a lot of time, and you don't have that balance in that person's life to get through all the details. So you have to find a way to go straight to what is more important or more relevant. All right. So and then obviously we go area by area. So when we discuss heating, we discuss about what sort of appliances they have, how big is the environment, how old are the appliances, and discuss if that appliance has thermostat and if the temperature can be controlled. So discuss what sort of temperature in winter would be comfortable. Obviously, we always say dress up for winter would be the first thing. So a lot of people wants to have singlets and shorts in winter as well, but it's cost. I like to stay at home like that. So dress up for winter, it's a good important tip. So keep the heat inside the house and look for any gaps and drafts area in the house to seal it. So close, obviously, if you're heating, and what sort of heating appliance you have, if you have a ducted or if you have one room, like a discuss with the client that that's really important to keep the heat that costs a lot of money in that room by closing doors and windows, seal gaps, and using some electric alternative. It's too expensive. Use some alternatives like electrical blankets and electrons to minimize the cost as well. They are cheaper alternative. And the same thing in cooling in the summer. So, and then so obviously the other way around in terms of temperature. So discuss with the clients which area of the house actually have more sun in summer and it's hotter, possibility of shading, or if it's not, what they could do during these hot days. It's the same thing, seals the closed doors and windows to avoid the heat to come in. Yeah, and then use alternatives like when you actually have air conditioning and a fan. So maybe fan would be cheaper to use than air condition if it's possible. Obviously, during heat waves, fan probably would not be enough. So there is a level or a limit of temperature that fans will not work. So you need air condition. But because fans normally drop between 3 to 4 degrees only in the environment, so no more than that. It's extremely hot, obviously you will need air condition. So it's, yeah, those things that is being discussed with the clients. But again, it's I think the point is find where's the hottest part of the house and see if there's any possibility for shading, close doors and windows to keep the hot air outside. And if you're actually running an air condition, trying to keep the temperature between 24 and 26 degrees. And again, if the air conditioner has got any high fan in built, try to have it actually on high to keep it, to spread the cold air as quick as possible. Hot water, it's another area of the house that it's takes cost. It's costly to heat. So people thinking about it's also connected to the water. So you're saving hot water, you're saving water at the same time. If you keep showers to a minimum time, we always say like 4 minutes. Yeah, so if someone has teenager at home, they know how hard is that. So washing cold water. So a lot of people think, oh, I have to washing hot because then maybe it feels like the water that kills germs. So always remember to kill germs, you have to have a very high hot temperature over 60, 65 degrees. So not 40, not 30. So this will not kill any germs. So yeah, so it's will wash it the same way. So yeah, so we discuss those things with the client as well. And every client, every type, depending on the type of hot water system, we also go into details, even checking the relief valve. It's not all hot water that has relief valve, but we discuss those details with the clients as well. Drying clothes, yeah. So even though like nowadays we do have heat pump dryers, which is the heat pump system make the dryer more energy efficient. So most of our clients and due affordability, they tend to have the standard dryer, which is cheaper to purchase and easy to have, but it's really expensive to run. So I think the best advice to clients, avoid if possible, but if it's not, discuss if there's any disability or something that impede preventing clients actually to hang clothes on the clothes horses or outside on the clothesline. Maybe discuss how to use it in a way, in a sense that would more energy efficient. There's a lot of things in terms of dry that you can do. Like we always say, separate heavy fabrics away of light fabrics, and with light fabrics, keep it in a less time in the dryer. Maybe before you actually put in the dryer, do an X-ray spin on your washing machine as well. So the clothes are very, before actually you need to dry, they're already very dried. And again, everything that circulates the circulates will not use a lot of energy. Like the washing machine will not use a lot of energy by doing the spin, but your dryer, because it needs to provide heat, will use a lot of energy. So those things that we actually discuss with the clients. So if they can avoid to use the dryer, let's actually use it in the sense that you waste less energy, or you actually use the minimum necessary for that. And if you use clothes horses, or will hang some clothes in the house, so make sure it's got a little bit of ventilation in the house, because you don't want to bring more humidity into the house to create like mold, which is no good for your health as well. So all those things needs to be taken consideration, and this is why when we talk about tailored, yeah, every client's needs and circumstances are different. Again, so hopefully I haven't gone too much over time. Some resources. In some part of Queensland, you actually can choose your energy retailer. So best way is to access, and clients can choose actually the energy retailer. So best way is to go to Energy Made Easy to check best plan or best energy plan for clients around the area, especially in the southern part of Queensland. Again, the address for Concessions website. Clients that has all the issues in terms of like fines and credit cards and mortgage issues. So it's always important to recommend a financial counseling service, which is the number there. And if you think that you come across after discussing all those things with your client, that your client needs more in-depth support, you can always reach out in our phone number. So we're happy to actually provide a phone appointment with your client. After you actually have discussed those things, the client is still struggling and is still feels like they need someone to investigate, like we do the abuse. Please, we're more than welcome to have your referral. All right, so that's our Energy email address and our phone number. So if you need to talk more details about your client. Yes, so open
Thank
for
you very
questions.
much, Jane. So we'll send out a copy of the slides in a post-event email with a recording of the webinar. So you'll have the slides with those emails and phone number, but feel free to put it that email in the chat if people want it straight away, because it'll take us a few days to get that together. So yes, I now wanted to just mention some of the resources that were being developed through the Charge Up project, which relate to some of those things that Jane was talking about that you can use with people that you're seeing. So these resources, I just want to acknowledge Audrey, who's on the call from Energetic Communities. Audrey helped to get the content together, and then our amazing graphic designer here did the final graphics on them. So the previous slide, if you just go back one, Sarat, for a second, the QR code links you to all the resources. So there's 7 up at the moment, with an 8th one about to go up live. And so if you can put the link to that in the chat as well. We'll go to the next slide. So I'll just talk through some of these resources. We've got one called Reach for the Stars, and so this talks about the star rating of different appliances and gives some examples of how much money people could be saving over a year if they were using the highest star rating versus the lowest star rating appliance. So you can see that, like an air conditioning unit, $261 from the lowest star to the highest star. So if people access a nils, a no interest loan, to pay that off, that could really actually save them within 1 to 2 years. They're saving money. So more stars, more savings. So that resource is online. We also have one specifically about cooling, all those tips that Jane was talking about, and a few more details about things you can do to save money whilst keeping cool. So that one is up there. And then the next one is, a little funky slide. There we go. That's John, our graphic designer, putting things in that I wasn't expecting. So one talking about the concession cards. So it's great. It's got a visual picture of what the concession cards are and a list of the cards that are available and reminding about that medical needs and equipment. And then we've got this one, which is a general tips about energy saving around the home. Lots of these Jane mentioned. This is an extra one that wasn't mentioned about using your refrigerator. And this one, which we're about to put up on the website, if you look at it today, it won't be there, but check and it will be back on soon, is if you want to calculate, get really into calculating how much energy one appliance is using over another. There's a tip on a calculator. So Audrey, who developed all the calculations, did comparing an oven to an air fryer here and looking at roasting pumpkin and seeing that you could save $118.56 a year in using an air fryer over an older electric oven. So that's, we'll go, before we pass to EWOQ, we need to give some time for questions directly to Jane from any of that content. So please, if anyone has a question, you can raise your hand and speak directly, turn off your mic once I call out, or you can type in the chat and I can read out that question. If anyone has any questions directly about that content from Jane, then please ask now. Yes, we will have more general questions at the end after both our guest speakers. I wanted to give a chance if someone had something now to ask before those slides are far away and that moment feels less on the tip of your tongue. No one. All right. Maybe. Well, I hope you're gathering all your questions for the end. Then we'll have more time for discussion at the end. All right. Well, if we've got no questions now, I might hand over to Gail from the Energy and Water Ombudsman, or Ombudsfolk, as I like to say. So thanks very much for joining us today, Gail, and I'll let you explain a bit about what services you offer at EWOQ.
Thanks, Deanna. Thanks, Jane. So I will start off with our acknowledgement to country. So Energy and Water Ombudsman Queensland acknowledge the traditional owners and their custodians of the land, seas and waters of Queensland. We pay our respects to First Nations elders past and present and their future leaders who continue cultural and spiritual connections to country. We recognise and respect their valuable contributions to Australia and global society. So I'll just talk on some of the topics that we wanted to cover in the session. So how to get help with your energy or water company, complaints that we can and can't help you with, shopping around for new offers. There's a little bit on embedded network, smart meters, understanding your power bill, how to contact us, and a couple of references for where you might go when you don't know where to start. As introduction, so we are a free independent dispute resolution service that helps people resolve complaints with their electricity, gas or water company. We aim to provide equal access to a free, timely and just way of referring disputes and having those disputes investigated and resolved. If you're a residential or small business customer anywhere in Queensland or a water customer in Southeast Queensland, you're welcome to contact us. We are completely independent and not connected to any energy or water provider. And just on that, so I have been with the Energy and Water Ombudsman now since 2008, primarily as an investigation officer and more recently as an exempt seller coordinator. So that's for people that live in embedded networks, the people that provide them with bills or the sale of energy or supply in those little private communities. So we've seen a very big shift in the way energy is being retailed, sold, marketed, and everything like that. So we're always happy to help answer any questions. You don't have to have a problem to come to us. But this next slide is on our website, and it just goes into a little bit of, what help we can give. So complaints we can help with are primarily billing and contract issues, customer service concerns, payment difficulties and disconnection, concessions and hardship, default listings, marketing, new and existing connection problems, supply, burst leaks, blockages and overflow. We also have claims for damage, loss and concealed leaks, vegetation management, and on-selling in private embedded networks. So one of our most common complaints is usually about high bills and disputed bills, but a large portion of those complaints might actually mask an underlying deeper financial difficulty, like struggles to pay a bill, facing disconnection or supply restrictions. Usually what we find is by the time someone actually approaches our office, they are, in a more severe, or position where they're not going to be able to get back on top. They might be disconnected already or facing imminent connection. And the message that we try and get out is that they need to engage earlier for a better outcome. So following COVID, we had, this transitionary period. During COVID, nobody could be disconnected for debt. And then following that, there was still a bit of a transitionary period where people were trying to get on top of the debt that they had accrued while they then, increased their overall financial position now that people were able to get back out, go back to work and things like that. One of the most important things that I like to get across to customers is that if they have already had 2 broken arrangements in any 12-month period, that retailer is no longer obligated to offer them support under a hardship, financial capacity to pay. And I think that's where a lot of people fall down. They, like Jane was saying, people are sometimes accept a payment plan knowing they have no capacity, and then they break that payment plan and then break another one. And all of a sudden the retailer's like, well, that's it. I'm sorry, you can come up with $400 or we're just going to disconnect your payment, disconnect your supply. So it's really important that we get that message out that the sooner you engage, the sooner we can all work together to try and get through this issue. That's probably about all I've really got on that one. So some things we can't help you with. Pricing. So pricing in Southeast Queensland for retail has been deregulated since about 2016. Bottled and reticulated LPG, bulk hot water supply. We get a lot of complaints and queries about solar installation, warranty and repair. Water bills from your landlord, complaints about your provider if you've not contacted them first, and anything that you've known about or became aware about more than 12 months ago, or your consumption is above our upper consumption threshold. But I couldn't imagine people in this space are outside there. Shopping around for new offers. So every 1st of July, the Australian Energy Regulator sets the default market offer price. So the DMO in itself is just a safety net to stop electricity prices from getting too high and ensures energy companies don't charge more than a set maximum for customers. And that's in New South Wales and Southeast Queensland. In regional Queensland, so anyone connected to the Ergon Energy Network, their prices are set by the Queensland Competition Authority, and the government is supported in covering some of those costs because their network costs so much more to run and maintain. The Energy Made Easy, I think Jane touched on that as well, so is the best place to start if you are looking for a better deal. There have been many changes to the layout and the way that people market offers on there so that you are looking at the price that you will pay as opposed to the discount being the most prominent part of that website. The DMOs, there is 2 different plans that people can go onto with regards to energy. So if I was to call up an energy provider, I've just moved into a house and I don't want to participate in the market, I would just go on a standard retail contract, and it's that standard retail contract that is based, the prices under that contract that are based on the default market offer. And that's where we see that change come about the 1st of July every year. If I was to try and connect my power when I moved in and accepted a market agreement, so I might want a discount, they might be offering me $50 to do this, or I'm going to bundle some services, that's when I've entered a market retail contract and my prices can go beyond the DMO. At the moment, they can also change more than once in a 12-month period. So there's a lot of things to look out for when using the Energy Made Easy and just really getting into those terms and conditions. If we go to the next one, the embedded network. So this is anyone who lives in an apartment, retirement village, or a caravan park. They will usually receive their bills from, so a caravan park, they're probably just getting the bill straight from the person that stands at reception. You've got apartments and retirement villages. They might have engaged a billing agent, so they are still the electricity seller, but they might be using a common brand to send out their bills. They will have different protections depending on their selling model. So you might, instead of looking at the national rules that everybody else has when they're connected to the grid, they have a different set of legislation that's meant to align with the same protections, but it doesn't quite offer the same value of protection. But there certainly are things in there that will help those people should they have a problem with their biller. So this is where we talk about things that you may not know if you are an embedded network. So we see a lot of vulnerable people living in embedded networks. We see retirement living. They are primarily all embedded networks. The conditions that for those people, the legislation that they are bound to is a lot about information provision, pricing, billing, and hardship. So there is a set cost. If I'm an embedded network, that person that sends me a bill cannot exceed the local price of the standing retail offer of the local area retailer. So, and that's only two people in Queensland. It's Origin in the southeast, and it's Ergon if you're connected to the Ergon network. So that's where they have that protection of someone not just increasingly, exceeding those costs for them. Information provision. So at the start of any billing relationship in that space, they do need to tell people that they now have the right to move to a retailer of their choice. So they now have been, the competition in retail has been expanded to people in private networks. It's just very hard to access while you're living in those sorts of communities. Smart meters. So we probably have all heard that the AEMC has accelerated smart meter rollout across the national electricity market. They're hoping to have all smart meters installed by 2013. So as background, in December 1st, 2017, smart meters became the only compliant meter. So if you had a faulty meter, if you wanted to get rid of your controlled load tariff, any change at all, you had to have a smart meter move into the property, and you would then also lose Energex as your meter provider. So all of a sudden, we've got these new people like Eureka, Plus ES, all coming out and doing things with your meters that people wouldn't have been familiar with. The benefit of a smart meter is it tracks usage in near real time. It's communicating remotely with the network, and meter readers no longer have to attend to obtain an actual reading. It's providing access, so we have more detailed data, so it allows the end user to better track the power that's being used, which then we would hope would help them save long term. Solar, same benefit. So you can now see when you're generating too much, you're not using it, it's exporting to the system. You might want to then change your habits so that you're benefiting from that free power as opposed to paying 30, 40 cents for on-market supply. We've seen a lot of retailers also developing apps so you can watch this from home. And try and adjust your behaviours or know, why did I use so much power yesterday? Mikey was home with the aircon on all day. So there are some really good benefits. Some of the common questions is, can I opt out of getting a smart meter? And the answer now is no. From the 1st of June, you can no longer opt out of having that smart meter installed. You can, however, have the communication device disabled. Again, that will mean that somebody has to come out to your property and read that meter. I think the fee for that at the moment is somewhere in the vicinity of about $40. So they do have to let you know that up front. Your tariff rate, when they first came up with the smart meters being installed from 2017, people automatically defaulted to a time of use tariff structure or a demand tariff structure, which meant that between the hours of 4 and 9 of an evening, 7 days a week, the highest value of power you used in any increment would become your demand charge for the next, for the next 30-day period. It was very hard for people to understand that weren't given warning. and they've already gone home, put the roast on, turn the aircon on every night, and all of a sudden they're receiving, 9 kVs a day for 30 days. So the whole benefit of these different tariff rates, though, is it's trying to encourage people to move their highest power usage out of that time band that's putting so much pressure on the network. And then the benefit is that you will get a cheaper rate should you be able to do that, which not everyone can. I get home after work, I'm going to turn the oven on, I'm going to do a load of washing. But for people who are stay at home, they might be retired, they might be able to benefit from these different tariff structures because they can move. They can start cooking in the morning. They can wash, outside of these peak times to try and benefit on a lower tariff rate. To understanding your power bills. So quite recently, the government introduced the Better Bill Guideline. We used to have a section in the national legislation that said the things that must be included on your bill. They found that it wasn't really working. They wanted to have a more consistent approach and something that was much more easy to understand for everybody at home. So the goal is to use simpler language, make the bills easier to understand, and clearly show the most important information at the top. The new bill layout is cleaner. It's using color and shading to highlight more important details, and the tariff information is meant to be shown in a clear and easy to find spot. I think we have in the next slide some more information from the AER. So this is what we would expect all bills to now conform to. So depending on who you change to, you should be able to easily go to that bill and identify the same information that you saw on your previous retail bill. The Better Bills message was a bit of a concern. So this is the could you save money number 3 there. When that message is printed, it talks about how much you could save if you were on this one says Super Saver plan. That message has to be accurate at the time of printing that bill, because these plans change so regularly. By the time you get your bill, if you're getting it paper via post, you wait till the due date to pay and you think, well, I'm paying, I'm going to look at that plan. It might have already expired. So there was a lot of complaints when that message first came about. The tariff information is really quite clear now. Things about estimating bills and things like that will soon become a thing of the past, but it's really important that if people are looking at a bill and it's estimated, they know and understand what to do when they see that message. Because if you come to us later because you've got a $1,000 bill and you've only been paying $200, we will ask you, did the bills have a message about being estimated? What did you do in response to that estimation message? Because the answer is that they should go read their meter. They should talk to the retailer if there is, quite a varying difference in the usage and the reads, just to prevent that high catch-up bill at the end that we can't really do much about other than ask for a payment plan. So really important stuff. How to contact us. I mean, we're available for walk-ins. You can come to our office in South Queensland. In the Brisbane office, we have an office in Rockhampton and another one in Cairns. We use email, telephones, and we also do have online chat for people who like to do that as well. It's got all our national relay service and interpreters there as well to help. These are the other Ombudsman schemes. So anywhere we go for stakeholder events, we always bring this chart with us, because if we can't help you, we like to at least think we could refer you to another place that might be better suited, to be able to help. So that's a really important sheet that I like to have. And again, Deanna, with the QCOS resources.
Yeah, I'll speak more to, I've got examples of those again, but that's the QR code again for those. So I'll bring up a picture of those ones that link to what Gail's been talking about. But we'll go to some questions for you first, if there are any. Here we go. Audrey has a question.
Hi. Thanks a lot for this presentation. Very clear. Appreciated. I just have a quick question about smart meter. Can you clarify if a smart meter only sends information or does it also receives information? Does it flow information? Yeah.
Yeah, it is only meant to be sending the information. So it's basically just a data source. It's using the telecommunications network and it is on a secure channel. So it's not like anyone else can access that same line and the data is purely going out. So if there is a blip, an intermittent fault in communication, so say it's not just sending out the data every 5 and 10 minutes. It'll wait till say 6 o'clock and try and send it on that channel to the metering coordinator. If there's an intermittent fault at that time, it will still hold it and then try and send it out the next day. If there is an ongoing communication issue, they will come out and probe it and download that data manually.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Audrey. Okay, we've got a question in the chat from Dan. How do smart meters work in an embedded network? Do you just have a smart meter at the connection point? That's a great question.
Yeah, so the gate meter will be owned by the on-market retailer. So most of those meters should probably already be smart meters unless they've been a legacy meter for a long time, but eventually they will be a smart meter. Embedded networks, depending on the time that they were developed, they may have smart meters, but those smart meters are the property of, let's say, the body corporate or the retirement village. Whoever owns that small network, those smart meters belong to them. So they're not communicating with the likes of AGL or Origin. It is a tighter knit circle and they will only communicate with the metering coordinator for that network owner. So they're not included in the smart meter rollout purely based on the cost. But if anyone in an embedded network had to have their meter replaced, it was faulty, they were retrofitting an embedded network, they would have to be smart meters. So there's still the same rules where any new replacement meter must be a smart meter. But if you're sitting happily in an embedded network and you've been there for a long time, your meter's fine. There's no process at the moment or any, no one's trying to accelerate a smart meter rollout in an embedded network.
Thanks for that question, Dan. Any other questions now before we? No? All right, I'll talk about the charge up resources while you have some time to think of more questions for the kind of broader energy chat that you might have. So in talking about smart meters, there is a resource about how to identify what kind of meter you have. We've got the pictures of the digital, the old wheel meter and the smart meter, which has to have an antenna. Even though the digital might have a digital read, it doesn't have the antenna to kind of send information, which on this one is just like it's that little black kind of strip at the bottom. So the antenna is not necessarily like the old radios that have a big long kind of thing up in the air, but that's a quick tip on how to tell and then how you read those meters. We also have this resource on how to get a better energy deal, which is reminding people about calling up, using the Energy Made Easy website to compare their different energy bills, how they could be getting a better price, even on Ergon, even in regions, if it will still show it could be changing tariffs or getting a better price. And on your bill that Gail was talking about is the NIM, the NIMI number, which will be highlighted, which you need to plug in to have a look about that. Some tips about discounts. We also have a resource. This is a 4-page resource about how to understand tariffs because they are quite complex. So for those who are getting a smart meter, to understand the different times of day, the peak time and off-peak time, and also this graph looks at like your usage time when you're using your electricity the most as to which tariff might be the best for you. And then has a little bit about controlled loads, which is sometimes hot water or pool pumps can be on a separate system. And then, more information about those different time of use tariffs or flat tariffs. So those resources are there through developed through the Charge Up website. And was just going to put this up early because we're going to open now to more general questions, but I was like, I'll put up the post-event survey for as we're chatting now with more questions if anyone needs to leave early so that you get a chance to do that survey. So sorry if you could put the link for the survey in the chat as well. And so, yeah, we really love if people can take the time. It's just 4 questions. Put a screenshot to show you what they are. It's really helpful to get the feedback for our events. But yeah, I'd like to open to some more questions, and then once we've run questions, I've got a few more slides about QCOS things upcoming. But yeah, any more questions that people have thought of about? It could be, maybe we'll go back to the, just give people more of a chance to look at the post-event one. So yes, any more questions? So our speakers today have a breadth of knowledge. So even if it's something that wasn't directly talked about in the slides, if you've got a question about energy system, please feel free to ask it. I'm sure they would have some, might be able to assist. Audrey.
Sorry, me again. For EWOQ, do you publish a report like yearly or something where you show basically what you see, the kind of questions you get, the kind of complaints, where it's at with the retailers, for example, and that kind of thing?
Yeah, we do have our annual report, which is due out soon. I just don't have one in front of me to tell you exactly what depth it delves into. It will tell you things like, the majority of our complaints are about high bills. I don't think it will publicly call out, who they're about and things like that, but it does talk on what we do, what we see, how many the complaint numbers and things like that we get each year.
And those, sorry, I'm going to keep, does EWOQ has any influence then with this report? Is this used in one form like advocacy for change?
I don't necessarily feel like because we're an independent body. I mean, everything that we do is generally fed back to the regulator, so the Australian Energy Regulator, and that's how they find about, some of the things that we're seeing in the market, what tighter controls they might need to put in place. I know QCOS was involved many years ago with a change to the early termination fee. So when retail competition was first introduced, the retailers could charge, let's say, $75. If you had electricity and gas and you decided you wanted to move, $75 per service, $150 because you want to change your retailer. It's now $20 capped, and that's legislated. So I think some of the things that come out of our reports might go back to help the regulator with what they need, the tighter controls and protections they might need. But yeah, as far as advocacy, I wouldn't know.
Thank you.
And is that report published on the EWOQ website?
I feel like it is probably publicly available. I'd have to go on. Isn't that terrible? EWOQ.
Well, you're having a look.
Yeah, it's definitely on there.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And then we've got a question from Dan. Is there any advice on financing for energy efficiency upgrades or solar battery for cost savings? So also invite Audrey if you have any thoughts on this as well. So Audrey's from Energetic Communities. But yeah, if anyone has any thoughts on that. I did mention before, Dan, I'm not sure whether you were in the chat then, that there is the no interest loans, the NILS loans that could help for particular energy efficient appliance upgrades. So say getting a new fridge. I'm not sure, Sally, whether you have any more information on like the range of what can be applied for within a NILS loan. There might be some, I'm not an expert on the limits, but on whether some things aren't considered more essential items, but yeah, if you have any more.
Yeah, I spoke to my colleague about that. I can't confirm, but we suspect that it's probably white goods kind of those more critical items that families require. But
yeah, that was what I kind of
rather
thought.
than solar panels or anything like that. So
yeah, that had to be kind of considered a more essential thing. Oh, great. Thank you, Nicole, for the link to the NILS website. We can have a look
thanks,
at that.
Nicole.
And yes, so the other part of the question, if anyone has any thoughts about other tips for financing, there is currently the federal government rebate for batteries. The moment, I don't have the details of them off the top of my head. If anyone knows off the top of their head how much it is and some more of the details to mention.
This might end up being a much longer conversation than what we're ready to do here. In terms of support for solar, not much, apart from, pretty low feed-in tariffs at the moment. Again, this is going to get a bit technical. And some rebates. There is a rebate, but you don't actually see it because it's already in the advertised price. And for batteries, so the federal cheaper home battery is 30% off the installation plus the battery, which is a pretty decent. There's plenty of criteria there and all of this, but broadly they made it very available. That said, will that really help low income? I'm not certain. And will that help renters? Certainly not. So yeah.
Thanks to Nicole for another link from the government website about funding solar. That's great. And I'll just read out for anyone about the NILS loans. It does limit to it's up to $2,000 household appliances like white goods. So yes, that's just the $2,000 cap was. I thought it was that, but I had to check. Thanks very much for putting that link in, Nicole. Any other comments on that question about funding, financing upgrades?
I just would like to comment. Sometimes obviously we're dealing with a lot of, when we're talking about experiencing hardship, our clients that comes to us often not in a position to go this step and to provide or to upgrade at home, but to upgrade with solar, but a lot of the residents that own the house, I probably would advise them to check and to at least do obviously used certified. We've checked the reviews of that solar provider as well. So just to make sure they being in terms of quality and warranty and support after installation. But I think it's every household is different. It's worth to do a quote and to investigate the possibilities and to investigate against your bill, like how high is your bill, right? So with someone with extremely high bills, it's probably the cost of financing it would and the cost of harvesting it will really a good move to do. So every case is different, but I just would say if the client is in a position to analyze, I probably would recommend at least to do analysis. All right. So before just discharging the possibility, no, I don't have a way to finance it, or no, because sometimes like if the very, very high bills, it's actually worth it to have a look. And I think it's just like, it's so complex and every case is different, but I probably would say for any household or in a position to able to actually finance or to investigate it. So don't discharge, because we have got some very positive cases of I know some people in Queensland that I already actually have solar and has battery, and they pretty much pleased with the results. So it just likes to say it's something that is possible. But again, like with someone struggling financially, it can be a little bit complicated.
Thanks for that, Jane. Anyone else with a question that's come to mind? Could you please talk a little bit more about controlled loads? How do they work? That's a question from Emily. So either Jane or Gail, either of you want to talk about controlled loads?
Control loads is it's normally for like a high energy usage appliance, often it's for hot water. So it's got a different circuit in the meter that actually separate the usage of that appliance away from the other appliances in the house. So these terms control load often confuse consumers. Sorry, because what is this? It's not consumer friendly term at all. But it's pretty much like to have a separate way to measure that appliance, high consumer appliance, like often is used for hot water, and especially on the older meters. We don't get to see control loads on the smart meter anymore, Diana.
Gail, did you want to add anything from your perspective?
Yeah, it's interesting because over the years we saw people, they said they were on off-peak, they'd see off-peak on their bill, and they were cooking all through the night thinking they were saving money and they were getting cheaper power. But it's actually a dedicated circuit. So you can't plug an appliance in and get a cheaper rate. It's your hot water system is directly connected to that one control. So you've got your off-peak, which is just between 10 p.m. at night and 7 a.m. in the morning. So your hot water system can only access power supply during those hours. So you run out of hot water in the morning because, 10 of your kids have had a shower. You're not getting power supply to that appliance until 10 o'clock that night. So these are the benefits and, the ups and downs of what people need to weigh up. Where's my hot water system? How big is it? How many people are going to use it before I've got power coming to it again to reheat that? The other supply is 18 hours. A lot of people will use it for their pool filtration system and their hot water storage because you get longer time to use it, but it's at the discretion of the network. So it's not going to be you've got 18 hours supply between 9 in the morning and whatever time at night. It can move, and that's where people were falling down with setting timers on their pool supply, their pool filtration. Very good to have, but it's also the way they work. So you'll have your meters and then you'll have this switch in the middle. The switch in the middle is owned by Energex, the network. The meters are now going to be owned by different metering companies. That switch, it will flick on like any appliance in your home to allow power. And the way that switch flicks on is they send out a ripple in the network. So you might remember years ago, people would be at 6 o'clock every night. My fan makes a funny noise, my ceiling fan. It's because they're sending out a ripple through the network to activate that switch so that power supply goes out to those controlled load appliances. It's really cool, I thought.
That is also worth thanks, Gail. I really forgot to mention that. The reason why is the price that is different. But some people learn because they're running out of water during the day.
Yep.
They learn that some control loads, there is switch there day and night, and they actually switch it to have 24 hours the price.
Yeah.
So when they actually do it, they would have hot water. They will not running out of hot water because the system is heating all the time. But when they actually do it, they change to a daytime tariff.
Yeah.
And this is
Yep.
why they end up with really, really high bills. So it's very, very good. Don't don't tell those things to clients, because if they learn, sometimes they can't help themselves and just switch to daytime in the appliance. Yeah.
And if I can just add, with the time varying tariffs, you may actually have, for example, solar soaker right now on the Ergon area. The tariffs that you have in the middle of the day is so much better than what you can get on the controlled load. So you actually would benefit if it's the right size hot water and you don't run out of hot water to be doing your hot water during that very off-peak, very low. It's 7 cents kilowatt hour. So you benefit doing your hot water at that time. Then if you have solar on your roof, you would benefit actually making sure that your hot water is actually being made whilst your solar is generating. So controlled load was a cool concept to start with, but now it just got very complex to actually decide what's the best tariff to go with. So yeah, just pay attention to a few things.
Yeah, that took me a while to get my head around the controlled loads part of it. So thank you for the question, Emily. And Emily said, wow, it's so interesting. And thank you for sharing, and brilliant. Thanks, Audrey. Definitely need a deep dive a bit there. So so the reason for that different system is because, like that kind of simple diagram of a house that Jane showed in the slides earlier, that often, like generally speaking, every household is a bit different, but it's hot water is where most energy is used to heat the water for a household. So that's why that system was developed, to put it onto a different metering system to, traditionally to only heat at night, to make it cheaper when less people are using energy and water. But now the system's changed where the network can turn on or off any time of the day when, like, they're seeing, oh, actually we've got loads of solar in the system, we've got loads of energy, let's turn on your hot water now and heat it up. But it stores, and then the hot water becomes like a storage system for that. That energy is stored, that heat is stored in the system. And if you've got a small one, it's going to run out quickly as the new hot water comes in. But if you've got a big one, maybe you can store it for, I heard a story of someone in far north Queensland. They said they could manually turn off their hot water and store the heat in it for like 4 days and still have warm showers. Whereas, maybe if you're in a colder, it's winter and you're in Toowoomba, the outside heat's going to, coolness is going to cool down your hot water system faster. So, but also
depends the location. Yeah, depends the location of the hot water as well. If the hot water is facing north in the house, and having the sun during the day, or inside the house as well. But if you have got a hot water tank on the southern part of the house, which is cooler, tends to lose the heat over time. Yeah, so it's a lot of And also, to have a control load, it's not all size of hot water. So they normally eligible, or it's considered control load. There is a minimum size, like those 50 liters or a small hot water tank. They're normally not in the dedicated circuit, because 50 liters are normal hot waters inside the apartments, or 125 liters also not considered. Like normally control loads is, I'm not sure, I'm not 100% about that information, but it's normally like 250 liters up to 315 liters as a control load. So normally it's the big appliances. Yeah, just like
There you go. I've just learnt something too. I didn't know that, Jane. And that's really good to think about if you know, the hot water system breaks where you're living and a new one has to get installed, to be like, hang on, what side of the house does the sun normally hit most of the day, so that it gets some natural
heat.
natural heat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another tip I've heard is putting like some insulation on the pipe that runs from your hot water system into your house, so that the water's not getting cooled down as it's traveling.
Cools down, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Another thing that I would like to add to, it's not about the hot water, but it's about like with smart meters and the possibility to have time of use with people with different tariffs along the day, like a different price in the evening. It's just like because we're working national with our programs, and we've been actually having experience from other states, like especially Victoria, with clients and people using the time of use. Our learning is pretty much like sharing our learnings with you guys. Our learning is that people like who we spend most of the time at home, and considering obviously don't have solar, like, but they tends to not to get the most of the time of use. They actually tend to be a little bit more in trouble, because if you think about it, like energy, people don't think about electricity in their day-by-day life. They think about activities, right? So if they are retired, like pensioners, or they have some disability, they need to stay at home all the time, probably time of use will not the best option for them. So in our work, we always recommend flat tariff for people who actually spend most of their time at home. Even they have the flexibility to choose the time to do washing or things like that more in the evening, in the end, they will not do. Like our experience is actually showing that flat tariff for people who actually spend most of the time at home would be more appropriate. Yeah, I just thought to share that experience with you by observing what it's other states already been through with their smart meters.
That is interesting, actually. We've been assuming that people who are at home all the time could do that behavior change, but choose to use the energy of the day. But it's got to have the behavior change to actually save the money. So that's interesting to hear that it's not seeing the behavior change.
Yeah, if you think about like especially pensioners, they tend to do things most during the day and the daytime, like not evening or very early in the morning. So, because time of use was designed for mom and dad to actually drop the kids in the morning at school and pick up in the end of the day, or work outside, not even working at home. Like, so it's more designed for families that have a lot of activities outside the house during the day. Yeah, that's pretty much our experience. We thought like time of use would not work for people actually staying at home. If it can, sometimes it's not always possible to have the choice, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Dan had a question in there about consumers responding to controlled loads. Do they generally adapt or go back once they hit any issues? And it's interesting because if you don't have a controlled load, it's not a simple process. You need to have an electrician come out, rewire that system, put in an electrical work request order to Energex, and then you have it all approved and they bring out the extra meter. There's a cost involved with that extra meter per day. It might only be 3 cents or something like that. So if you do hit that an issue and you no longer like it, it's another electrician to come out on site, rewire those things, remove the controlled load. A lot of people get the electrician part right. They have them come out, they rewire it, but don't come and ask the network to take away the other meter. And then there's just an ongoing cost of having that meter sit there. So there's some interesting situations that we see come through when people, A, either want to go controlled load or B, then no longer like it, because it's not a cheap thing to do.
And with hot water, especially if you actually have a hot water as a control load, and we know that in terms of energy efficiency, we're moving to heat pumps hot water, like which is no longer using a control loads kind of
Mm.
feature. So
Yeah.
it's actually, obviously, we're talking about so if someone is going to invest on change, I probably would advise like change the whole hot water to
Yeah.
a heat pump. Yeah.
Yeah.
The control load circuit and hot water.
Yeah.
So
And we see people divert their solar, so you can get a timer on your solar now. So if you've just got everything on one flat rate, you can divert your solar just to your hot water system during set hours, which was a really great incentive too.
yeah. Even like a heat pump hot water would have
Mm.
timers, so you can
Yeah.
actually adjust all this heating time and use.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, for the very actually, pretty cheap thing to do. A meter is not that expensive. It will take maybe an hour to an electrician to put it on your switchboard, and it will pay for itself probably within a couple of power bills. It's a meter, a timer, a simple
Yeah.
timer is a
timing,
great
yeah,
investment.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to jump back to what you were saying, Jane, about the time of use, because you were saying it was designed for people who drop off their kids at school and then are not home during the day. Because my understanding was, because the cheaper time of day is during the middle of the day, that it actually is better, that it's not convenient for people who have to run out the door, drop the kids at school, because then they're not home unless they've got smart appliances to set the, dishwasher, like turn on at 10 o'clock, turn the washing machine turns on at 10 o'clock, they can have press the button on all those smart appliances that have the inbuilt timers to switch on during the middle of the day. But so I was just interested to unpack how you were saying you think your understanding was it was designed for that cohort.
Yeah, I think it's it's I think the whole idea, there is peak times of energy use. We know like it's towards the end of the day and 2 hours in the early morning. So there tends to be very expensive time. But so the concept of the time of use is actually to put price on when they had the peak. But it's thinking about that during the day when people are, because it's cheaper overnight, and this is why a lot of people, they can set up things to do overnight and activities. To be honest, even I know the design, but if you think that we're saying from our experience, what we actually notice, that people that staying a whole day at home, they actually end up with a time of use, end up with a higher bills. All right, so that's pretty much based on our experience. But yeah, so I heard like on the design, like for smart meters in Victoria, that was designed for this kind of cycle, like that people, because during the day it's still like expensive. Like it's less expensive than the 2 hours in the morning and from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the evening, but it's less expensive, but it's still more expensive than overnight. It's pretty much like our experience in Victoria.
I can just add to the confusion. You've got to keep in mind that every retailer does it differently. So the difference in between off-peak and on-peak will be, the tariff itself, the price would differ depending on the retailer, but also the times at which the on-peak, off-peak shoulder is differs greatly, and sometimes it even varies over the weekend. So like really being able to take advantage of those tariffs does need to really genuinely understand how they work. And I think most information for people to genuinely understand what they need to do. So yeah.
And I mean, Audrey, you mentioned before about the 7 cents. We had Ergon come out the other day and they explained, their new solar soaker or whatever, and the difference in cost. I think one band was 7 cents and another was like 50 cents. I think it's just extraordinary. if people were able to change their activity. And I suppose we only see the complaint side of it. So we see people who are sort of fanatical about what they do at home during the day that choose these time of use things. But 7 and 50 cents is just extraordinary.
And that's like the research shows in terms of behavior changes. Sorry, the people that know me will know how I speak about this, but the carrots and the sticks, we like a lot of carrots and we hate, even if there is a few sticks, we just don't want to go there. So the beauty of in a way, the solo soccer is a kind of a weird one because it gives you a mountain of carrots when you behave well, but the punishment is pretty high when you don't behave well. So it's tricky. It's tricky. That said, because they made it's so marked, the difference, right? That it's actually really easy for people to understand. Oh, that's what I need to do. I think the differences are so often really like a couple of cents, which just really doesn't convey the message.
Yes, that new ergon solar soaker tariff changes that equation from it used to maybe be cheaper at night, but now you can actually, it can be a lot cheaper in the middle of the day as the network's realizing the amount of solar panels feeding into the system. Are there any other questions that this conversation has sparked for anyone? A good, robust discussion about see any more questions? Okay. Well, I'll flick back through the amazing chat we've had about time of use tariffs and trying to get the best deal, saving money on your hot water through looking at whether you've got solar to use it during the middle of the day or whether you've got a controlled load to understand what that means on your bill if you've got it. So that's our post-event survey again. I'll just ask everyone again to please take a minute to do that. And so then I'll just go through some other ways you can stay connected. If you want to hear about updates in terms of the energy and water space, at QCOS we do a dedicated newsletter called Connection, which comes out quarterly. So if you go to the subscribe one, it has the multiple different newsletters that QCOS offers. So you can subscribe to all of them or just choose the one that's called Essential Services, Energy and Water. Just be aware this bug may have been fixed, but it was that if you were like, oh, I've been signed up to the Human Rights Network list, but I'm going to add the Energy and Water one. If you went in and clicked the Energy and Water one, it would unsubscribe you from the previous. You kind of have to click all the ones you want to be subscribed to. So I'll just mention that in case that bug hasn't been fixed yet. Keep an eye on the QCOS events. We have, obviously, this is a webinar, but if you sign up in the subscribe, the conduit will mention the events we have. We also have the Essential Services Consultative Group, or the ESCG, we call it for shorthand. So that's a group that also meets about 3 to 4 times a year, and we talk specifically about different changes coming in the energy system and get feedback from the community services sector about that. So if you'd like to join, please email the energy@qcos.org.au email address. I should see that, but there's a few of us who have access to that email address to link you into that network. If coming to a regular meeting to give advice about energy feels like a little bit beyond your level of knowledge, we still want to hear from you because we at QCOS get the opportunity to represent the community services sector on energy issues. We get invited to that Queensland Competition Authority that talks about price setting. We get to talk to different Energy Queensland. We have meetings with them, and we take stories from the community services sector and say, this is what we're hearing on the ground. This is the experience that the services are having of the energy stress people are having, energy hardship. and also looking at how built environment is contributing to people's health and stress from having an energy inefficient homes, so like not having any ceiling insulation, so people's houses are heating up to ovens, these kind of things. So these kind of stories can really help us sharing that experience from what's happening on the ground and sharing it with government and sharing it with these agencies that make decisions. So if you have time to take the survey, then we would really love you to give us any stories, any feedback. We'll feed that into our work as well. I should have got the hyperlink for the chat for that one. We'll put the link for that also in the post-event email. So if you don't have time to do it today, you can have a think and do that later. So we do have time for any more questions if people are still bubbling questions, but because there's none coming up, I'm just kind of going through my final bits. We also have Community Door, which you can link through the QCOS website, which has some additional resources about water and energy there. So, and I wanted to mention the QCOS conference, which is coming up later this year in November. So that will be a great event that we hope you can all make it along to. So I'm going to flag that now, get in your calendars. And yeah, so that's the other things I wanted to mention. But yeah, I'll just see now, because we do have time, if anyone's thought of another question before we close off. Any other questions coming to mind for anyone? No? Oh, well, not looking like anyone else has got any more questions. So I've just got that survey link that I will pop in the chat for the direct link to that sector supporting household survey. Oh, I'll just do that now. So if you're wanting to, if the QR code version doesn't work for you, there we go. Popped it in the chat. Well, I might, yeah, if there's no other questions, I'll take a moment to thank our presenters, to Jane from Uniting and Gail from EWOQ, and thanks very much to Audrey from Energetic Communities for adding a few extra tidbits, and thanks to all our energy educators from the Charge Up project. We had some of our neighbourhood centres online, and thanks to all the other people from across the sector who came to learn about the energy space. If there's other topics you'd like to see, other things you'd like to learn about in the future, let us know. We can try and incorporate that into, we will have at least one more public webinar before the end of the year, so we can try and incorporate any other things you'd like to learn about.